His Excellency Ranil Wickremesinghe, the President of the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka, Honorable Ministers, President, Secretary and members of the Singhalese Sports Club, players past and present, Mr. Nasser Hussain and Simon Taufel, Subha Sandhya Wakmachang. Naz, I just figured it's your birthday, so thank you for hosting this wonderful banquet. So I think as much as the Sri Lankan Cricket Board donated 25 million to the SSC and its cause, I'm sure you will basically beef up the coffers of the SSC through your generous sponsorship. So that's the surprise of the evening. And ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. At the outset, I wish to thank the members of the organizing committee for inviting me to speak a few words on this great occasion which celebrates 125 years of the Singhalese Sports Club. Lots of you have questioned my presence here simply because all of you know that I played all my Division 1 cricket at the club across the road, which is the Non-District Cricket Club. In fact, during the cocktail session outside, Mahela very cheekily asked me whether I was invited or whether I gate crashed. So I just wanted to put the record straight by tracking back a few years in history to 1975. I was 15 years old. I had just completed my first season of First 11 cricket for Royal College. The coach at that time was Colonel F.C. Deseram, whom much was spoken about this evening and whom Arun knows quite well. So Colonel F.C. was our coach. He was a captain of Ceylon. He was a double blue at Oxford in cricket as well as tennis. But more importantly, he was a stalwart of the Singhalese Sports Club. So once we finished our first season of cricket, Colonel F.C. walked across and said, "Young man, you need to join a good club to continue with your cricket." So I wasn't very sure what this good club was till he drove me in his mini minor or mini moke as it were those days to the SSC and enrolled me as a student member. So that was 1975 Mahela. I think, were you even a toddler then? I'm not too sure. So I hope I have laid to rest any doubt that you have. So what he told me was the club, the SSC, will teach me more about life than cricket, because what he intended to do was to get me playing daily news cricket. When you play daily news cricket, anyone who played in the good old days knows that a young boy was brought to do all the fielding, because the senior players who had played before only batted, bowled, and then went back into the dressing room. So that was my initiation into the Singhalese Sports Club. Unfortunately, 2 years later, the Non-District Cricket Club offered me the opportunity to play Division 1 Premier Cricket, which as a youngster I couldn't refuse. The biggest issue I had to face was how do I tell this colonel that I'm leaving the club. Anyway, I mustered enough courage to meet him, and I basically said, "Sir, I have got an offer from this Non-District Cricket Club and I need to leave." What I heard in the next 10 minutes was not Shakespearean English from the 1500s to the 1750s. Instead of which, I got a tirade of words starting with F's and B's, which certainly did not stand for food and beverage. So what next? What can he do? But the thing that I remembered most was when he told me, "I cannot believe that you're leaving and joining our annex, which is the NCC." So there you are. My association with the club dates back to almost 50 years ago, but being loyal to another club was not right. So I rejoined the SSC in 1990 June, about 6 months after I had retired from cricket. So very soon, I think next year, I can apply to be a senior member, which means, Vasanta, you lose some more money from your membership fees. With this as the backdrop, what has SSC taught? What have I learned from the SSC? What makes the SSC different or more accepted, in fact, sought after in terms to be a member? I had a few things in mind, but all of that has been covered so eloquently by Mevan and through ultra-modern audio-visual presentations. So I'll just go back to what I think drives this club. To me, it is a very confident, competent, vibrant group, a community called the SSC membership. Just looking at this hall, or I shouldn't be calling it hall because Shangri-La might have a charge on me. You see the vibrancy. You know that this has been the heartbeat of the club. This was, is, and will be what will drive the club to greater heights in the years to come. The next factor that struck me was it has produced leaders on the field as well as great administrators off the field. And these two combinations put together makes the club the potent force it is now in not only cricket, but in the general activities of the community that we call Colombo and Sri Lanka. And there goes a good lesson that if you are to be very successful, good leaders need to be supported by a great set of administrators. And therefore, the point that His Excellency made in a short while ago about bringing Sri Lanka to the world map in terms of a cricketing nation is not something that we cannot achieve. I believe it is the responsibility of every club, every player, every administrator to ensure that the game of cricket is always in the eyes of the world through its product, through its brand, and through that, the national identity which we call Sri Lanka, that can be proudly displayed, where our flags can be waved, and every time we step out to another country or some country comes here, we will be able to display that. So I think that's a challenge that all of us should take. It's a challenge that we can meet. It's a challenge that we can overcome. So I hope and wish that when we leave this room, we will have that at the back of our mind to ensure that the game of cricket will stay strong for a long time to come. Another aspect that I wanted to touch on, which I think I would really fail, is what I have learned through the captains that I have been fortunate to play for Sri Lanka. I'm sorry that both those captains, Anura Tennakoon and Dulip Pendis, are not here. Michael is here. Michael was a forerunner. Then Anura took over and was the person who really led Sri Lanka to knock on the doors of gaining test recognition. He possibly, to me, was the finest Sri Lankan batsman I've played with. So Anura, thank you for your contribution. Thank you for teaching young boys how the game should be played. Then it was the era of Dulip Pendis. Dulip was the teddy bear. But Dulip had a very tough and a very hard task of shepherding a group of youngsters to play test cricket but not disgrace the country. So his job, along with his able deputy Roy, who's also a member of the SSC, their jobs was to hold the hand, guide the Siddharths of this world, myself, the Ratnayakas, whomever you want to talk about, see that we are competitive, that we do challenge other nations, so that the Ranatungas and the De Silvas of this world will have a future that they can actually drive the country forward, which they did. And the next person I want to mention is my colleague for 10 years nearly, Arjuna. Arjuna was a fascinating character. Arjuna was possibly the most impactful captain of our generation, and we need to applaud people like that. I'll breeze through the next few captains because Marwan, I wasn't lucky enough to play with you, but your style of leadership was such as your batting. Then I go on to Mahela. Mahela was very astute. During that period, he had a crack Sri Lankan side that challenged other countries in Sri Lanka and outside. And not only did he challenge teams, but he also challenged umpires like Simon Taufel, who regularly gave batsmen out LBW off the inside edge, right? But Mahela knew how to put points across. So Mahela, I think you controlled our destinies during that time. And then on to Dimuth, whose style was the same as his batting, solid, reliable, and delivered. I don't want to talk too much on the Dasuns, the Charits, and the rest because I really don't know you all too well. So sorry, but great contribution to the country is very much applauded. What else does the SSC offer? Its infrastructure. I thought of having or going into some insight on that, but what you see today or what you heard and saw was something that words cannot put into. So I'll leave that part alone, but say that the SSC gives every sports the opportunity to excel. They do not differentiate between cricket and other sport. That's why the SSC is the club that it is now. And I think that's the way you drive it forward, and more input in that direction will make the club not only a club known for its cricket, but every other sport. The infrastructure is fascinating, whether it's the gym, the swimming pool, or you name it. I mean, it's something that can match with the best in the world. And very recently, I was fortunate enough to witness the opening of a one-of-a-kind building in this country, which was Nimal Jayasinghe Administrative Enclave. And if you have the opportunity to visit that, do so. But please lodge a complaint with the manager that they should have a better coffee-making machine there. I think that's important. I'm sure Mr. Jayasinghe would generously dig into his pocket and maybe have more than 1 or 2 coffee machines there. And I can tell you that it might even soar the membership. You can charge a little more and the coffee will be good. But what are we here for in the end? It's about a club, it's about an environment. And what SSC has done very well over the last 20, 30 years, and which Mewan touched on, is to bring in legislation, rules and regulations to ensure that the club stays relevant, it has and maintains standards of ethics and discipline, and above all, to create a safe environment for its members to thrive. I think the introduction of ordinary members to the SSC for the ladies is one such. And I'm very sure that more than the president, Mr. I.S. De Silva, there'll be many retired cricketers who will take up the offer of coaching the ladies team. There's not much more to say because it's been a long evening, and the next stage is the Q&A, where you'll have some great cricketing minds. So hopefully you will listen to that, get the benefit of their wisdom, and hopefully implement it wherever you go. So I'd like to end with a quote from the late Martin Luther King. Quote, "We are not makers of history. We are made by history," unquote. So what next for the SSC in its march over the next 100 years? You will have great challenges, but you'll also have many opportunities. And if you are to go by the history of the SSC over the last 100 years, I'm very sure the next 100 years will be much better, more relevant, and more brilliant. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for inviting me, and all the very best to you in your journey ahead. Thank you.